وَلَا تَزْنُوا. Next, lineage. So property, family. See, these are the universals in this bay'ah. If you really look at them, you will see the kulliyat al-khams in this bay'ah. These are when you learn, in usul al-fiqh, you learn these kulliyat. They're all in this bay'ah. They're all there. So this is to protect family and lineage. وَلَا تَزْنُوا لَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ فَاحِشَةٌ وَسَاءَ السَّبِيلَ. Don't go near zina, because it's a foul thing and it leads down a foul road. It's a terrible path. It breaks the society down. There's a book on sex and culture that was written in the 1930s, 1934, Unwin. And in this book, he studied over 80 cultures. And he found whenever they released prenuptial sex before marriage, that it destroyed the culture within 3 generations. A generation being 33 years, according to him. And he said he found no exception. And he wasn't a Christian. He was actually an atheist anthropologist. But he said maybe religion has some wisdom in worrying about these things. I mean, I got an email from somebody the other day from a Muslim country, and he was in an illicit relation, and he was saying that he was having all this guilt, and he was asking me what to do. But he said, unfortunately, it's become normal now in my country. And this was a Muslim country. So young people now, these are breaking down. These are very bad signs for a culture. They're very bad signs. And that's why we guard against these things, to protect, first and foremost, ourselves. قُوا أَنفُسُكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ. Right? Save yourselves. When on the airplane, they say first put the mask on your own face before even your child. Right? Because you can't help the person if you're لا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة, don't destroy yourselves. So that's really important. وَلَا تَزْنُوا. And zina in Arabic means both fornication and adultery. In English, we distinguish between the two. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ. Every pagan culture has child sacrifice. South America, they found a huge grave recently in, I think, Peru, of child sacrifice. This was done all over this is Iblis. Killing children, the most innocent. لا تقتلوا أولادكم والجنين ولد ما دام في بطن أمه. This is what Raghib Rasbahani says. The janeen, the fetus, is a child. الجنين ولد ما دام في بطن أمه. In other words, you call a walad a janeen in the batn of the but it's still a walad. It just has the name janeen because it's hidden from you. So once it takes human form, it's a human being. And that happens very quickly in the womb. So لا تقتلوا أولادكم. In the Quran, خشية إملاق, out of fear of poverty, which is the one of the main reasons. There's 2 dominant reasons. The incest, rape, all these things is like less than 1% of abortions. The real reason for abortion, 2 fundamental reasons: fear of poverty and interference with my career. Those are 2 reasons. There's an American entertainer who was being interviewed, and somebody said to him, do you... So what do you think about abortion? He said, I'm against abortion. And the person was surprised because they thought he would not be against abortion. He said, I'm against abortion. He said, you don't think a woman has a right to determine what happens in her own body? He said, well, I suppose everybody has a right to be selfish. This is a great answer, because that's what it is. It's you're saying, And that's why as our culture becomes more and more narcissistic, a lot of people don't want to have children anymore because they're a hassle. And there is an element to children that is a hassle. Every parent knows that. But they're a great blessing. They're one of the greatest blessings in life. So that's a really important letter. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادُكُمْ And Qadi Abu Bakr in Ahkam al-Quran, he says about this, he says, huwa al-wa'ad. It was infanticide. And he said, وَالِاسْتِتَّارْ عَنْ عَمْدٍ, and also concealing a pregnancy. Like, because there were women who could conceal it. And obviously when you have the type clothes that Muslim women wore in traditional societies, you could hide. And then, in many traditional societies, women were, they carried weight. Most traditional cultures, even in this culture, not that long ago, it was preferred to be hefty than it was to be skinny. So he says, min ghairi rishta, and so rishta is, waradu rishta is a child born in zawaj shar'i. So ghairu rishta or rashta, they're both correct, is an illegitimate child. And he says, وَالرَّمْيُهُ كَقَتْلِهِ. Ramyu, so what they would do, and this is very common in Greek culture and Roman culture, when the child was born, if it had defects, they didn't want to just kill it because, it's not easy to kill a human. So they would just take it out into the forest or something. I mean, this is a famous shepherd who left Odysseus, right? Oedipus. In the famous Sophocles trilogy. He couldn't kill him. He was told to go out and kill him, but he doesn't. He just leaves him, and somebody finds him. You find this motif in many, many stories. So this is, and unfortunately this happens in many countries, even here. They'll find a live baby in a garbage can. This is in America. You see this. This happens in Muslim countries, I guarantee you. And it's usually from illegitimacy. And that's why, لا تقربوا الزنا. Don't go near zina. Right? وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. It's related. It's related. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ. Right? It's related. Zina and killing is related. And then وَلَا تَأْتُوا بِبُهْتَانٍ تَفْتَرِينَهُ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. Buhtan is the worst. Buhtan is to tell a lie about somebody that's so heinous. And that's why it says, تَفْتَرُونَهُ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. You make this up. Iftira is to make something up. Buhtan comes from buhita. The mabhut is somebody who's shocked. They're in a state of perplexion. They're just shocked. What? They said that I did that? What? And so it's a horrific thing to do, and it has a terrible end for people that do that. Buhtan, one of the things, Baina Aidikum, is about wealth, according to some. There are many interpretations about what these words mean. Wa Arjulikum is to claim that they had adultery or fornication or something. Rape, to accuse somebody of rape. These are very heinous things. And if they're false allegations, you are in big trouble with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this happened to Mary. Ma kanat ummuki baghiya. This is in the Talmud. The Jews accused Mary of having illicit relations with a Roman centurion named Panthera. Dr. Ali, if he was here, he would confirm. Oh, you are here. Yeah, right. It's Panthera, right? Yeah. So Talmud, if you read that book, Jesus in the Talmud, by Schaeffer. Yeah, Schaeffer. He's a very solid scholar of the Talmud. It's pretty horrible what was said about Jesus' mother. That's buhtan, because she was innocent. Aisha was accused, innocent. There's a famous story of Imam al-Baqallani, the great Maliki Qadi and Mutakallim, who was sent by the caliph to the Byzantines as an ambassador. And the Byzantine ruler, you had to bow before him. So they told him, if he comes, he's not going to bow. So he had them build on the doorway to really low, so you had to bow just to come into the doorway. So when Qadi Abu Bakr got there, he looked and he realized what. So he came in backward. And then when he saw the Asaqifa, these bishops, he said to them, "MashaAllah, kayf al-ahl wal-iyal?" And how are your wives and your children? And they looked at, he said, "You're a scholar, and we're natanazzahu an al-awlad wal-ahl." Like we're above having families. We're too holy for that. And he said, "Subhanallah, tansibun ila Allah al-ahl wal-iyal." Like you say God has a family and children, but you yourself. and then the last one, they said, "Tell us about the hadith of ifk," because they study Islam. And he said, "Na'am imra'atani tuhimata bizina." Two great women were accused of adultery, of fornication, adultery. And he said, "Maryam wa Aisha. Amma Maryam fahamalat wa barra'ha Allah." Mary got pregnant, but Allah said she's innocent. Wa amma Aisha falam tahmal. Aisha didn't get pregnant, and Allah said she was innocent. So those are the kind of ulama we had. Yeah, Allahu Akbar. So buhtan is a very evil thing. Yeah, it's horrible. And then وَلَا تَعْصُوا فِي مَعْرُوفٍ. Don't disobey in any ma'roof. So if you look at these, this is really about authority. And you're entering into a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger that you're not going to do any of these things. And this is essentially, the things that most destroy. If you look at this, these are the things that most break down societies. Just look at the things there. Theft, illicit sex, murder. لا تقتلوا أولادكم. This is mafhum, right? Like, it's like لا تقل لهما أف. Don't say to your parents, uff. Mafhum al-awla. So if you can't kill children, like that's the least of you, then it goes up. So it goes up. وَلَا تَأْتُوا بِبُهْتَانٍ, gossip, lies, all these things that break down society. And then وَلَا تَعْصُوا فِي مَعْرُوفٍ. Do good things, do virtuous things. And this is why, so the imam is very important. And the bay'ah, traditionally, there's only a few countries that have this now. Malaysia still has it because they have the sultans. The Gulf states still have this idea of bay'ah. Morocco still has the bay'ah. In fact, Jews from diaspora come to Morocco when there's a new king and the Jewish leadership comes and gives bay'ah. So it's very important. Imam Laqani, in his Jawharat al-Tawheed, وواجب النصب إماما عدري بالشرع فاعلم لا بحكم العقل, that it's an obligation to have an imam. You have to have an imam. In other words, you have to have political leadership. This is also one of the 7 Noahidic, right? You have to have courts, you have to establish justice, so there has to be some type of government to redress wrongs. And the sultan is very important. One of the things, we don't support tyranny. Nobody, a'udhu billah, anybody that would even suggest that we don't support tyranny, but we also don't support anarchy. And so sometimes government that's bad is better than no government at all. And that's why the traditional ulama were against khuruj ala al-hakim, because they saw that it led to worse tribulations, the breakdown of a society. And this is why, if you look, and unfortunately we have these kind of people that want to bring down all the governments and create all this human suffering for some greater good that's going to come. The communists did this. They killed millions, tens of millions of people to bring about this quote-unquote equal society. But these are lies. The dunya is what the dunya is. And according to us, a'malakum a'malakum, your actions are what give you your leadership. And this is why one of the most important books to read in this area is Siraj al-Muluk by Abu Bakr al-Tartushi. Anybody that reads that book will change their view. And this is one of the great scholars who had nothing to do with governments. He was an extremely wara' person. But this idea that you just abandon governments and have nothing to do with governments, there's people that can do that. But if everybody does that, then who's in the government? Even Fir'aun had a believer in the inner circle. Fir'aun. قَالَ مُؤْمِنٌ مِّنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ. And he's told Fir'aun, are you going to kill a man because he says his Lord is Allah? So even in the inner sanctum of Pharaoh, there was a believer. So this idea somehow that no, we have nothing to do. If we abandon political process, then the only alternative is power struggles, where people just kill each other. So it's, and these are ijtihad issues, recognizably, and it's definitely safer to stay out of these situations. Many of the fuqaha did not have anything to do, but many of them did. Muhammad al-Shaybani and Abu Yusuf disagreed on that. Abu Yusuf became a qadi. Muhammad al-Shaybani did not, and he thought he shouldn't be involved with them. Abu Hanifa wouldn't take the qada. But to say that Abu Yusuf is not a rightly guided person, and the same is true for many of the great. Qadi Iyad was a qadi. Many of our greatest ulama were jurists, they were fuqaha. Some of them were ministers. And every government is going to have problems. So the bay'ah is very important, and this is also in the three vows, right? Dr. Ali, the Jews in diaspora, they have to take these traditionally, the Teitelbaum group, right? So these are the ones that support the Palestinians, the Rabbi Teitelbaum's people. You see these guys at demonstrations with Palestinian flags, and they really bother the Zionists. But they follow this rabbi who affirmed a traditional Jewish position in Orthodox Judaism, which was that they could not go back to Palestine en masse until, so in other words, Aliyah, what they call Aliyah. They could not do that until the Messiah comes. That was the traditional position. But one of the three vows was that you do not go against your government. And this was the traditional Muslim position. And this is why even living in 2 days before 9/11, I actually gave a talk in Philadelphia on the prohibition of breaking the law in a non-Muslim land. 2 days before. And I think it's really important for Muslims who are in the United States, we don't break the law. It's haram to break the law. And if you can't live by the laws, you make hijrah. But you don't break the laws of the land you live in. And there's ulama that say insurance is haram. But in this state, you have to have car. If you're going to drive a car, you have to have liability insurance. You can't break that law. So it's very important for Muslims to know this hadith is extremely important. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. And ulul amri includes living, if you're in a non-Muslim land, the ulul amri are the people in power over you. We don't disobey the law. You have to make hijrah. And there's places you can go to. They're difficult places to live, but you can go there. You don't have to live here. So if you're here, though, you have to obey the law. And then he said, فَمَنْ وَفَّ مِنْكُمْ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ أَصَابَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Oh, and then, Laqani says about that, وَلَيْسَ رُكْنًا يُعْتَقَدْ فِي الدِّينِ فَلَا تُزِغْ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ الْمُبِينِ. This is not a rukn in the religion. In other words, if somebody doesn't believe in the political aspect of Islam, it doesn't take them out of Islam. Like if they say, I don't believe in like khilafah or any of these things, it doesn't take them out of Islam. Because the Mu'tazilite said it was a hukm aqli, it wasn't shar'i. In other words, it was a rational thing, that it's wise to have governments and things like that. But it's not ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura. It's not a rukn from it is from the deen to have a governor, a ruler. But فَلَا تُزِغْ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ الْمُبِينِ إِلَّا بِكُفْرٍ فَانْبِذَنَّ عَهْدًا فَاللَّهُ يَكْفِينَ أَذَاهُ وَحْدَهُ. Unless you see kufr buwah, لَكَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ sultan, burhan. So you cannot disobey a ruler or go out of unless if you're in a Muslim land and the ruler declares his kufr. At that point, the ahad is broken. But if you come into a land or are born into a land where they're non-Muslims, you have a what's the term that Voltaire used? Okay, it's eluding me by fasting. I'm doing the brain doesn't work as well. Your civil contract. So there's a civil contract that you're born into. Yeah, al-aqd al-ijtima'i, the social contract. Yeah. So we're born into that, and so that's reality. So we have to obey that. And then he says, unless it's kufr buwah, and the Prophet ﷺ says, they asked him if they see something wrong. He said, La ma sallu, as long as they pray. So the prayer is the least, if you hold to the prayer, you can't go against them. And that's why the revolutions, they bring a lot of, if you look at all these countries where these things have happened, people are still suffering greatly. They're really suffering. And it was bad before. It's not to deny that. And they were oppressive. But nizam is better than fawda. And that's why Malik said 60 years under a zalim is better than a day of anarchy. Because it just destroys everything. Anyway, that's a traditional view. It's not my view. Trust me. There's people who think I'm just, this is what's in, isn't it? What's that? This is what all the ulama said. And now, because Marxism came in and these revolutionary ideas came into Islam. If you look at the Muslims, like the ulama in Morocco, when they lost to the French, they fought. And they fought hard. The Indians fought. Muslims really fought the colonialists. They didn't just surrender those lands. But once they were conquered and saw that it's nihilistic. It's just bloodshed for no purpose. At that point, they stopped. And that's why if you read, there's a book called Oppressed in the Land. It's really worth reading. It's all the fatwas of the ulama during colonization. And they all said, as long as they're not stopping you from practicing your religion, don't oppose them. Because it'll bring more harm on the community than benefit if you can't defeat them. And that's why the Begum of Bhopal, they have these women, the 7 Begums. I think there's 7. The Begums of Bhopal. Do you know about them? Any of the ladies? Never heard of the Begums of Bhopal? It's like one of the Mafkhara of India. These are women that ruled the province of Bhopal. There's an amazing picture of one of the Begums meeting the Viceroy of England, and she's in a complete purda. And he's like towering over her. But she ruled the country. Bhopal was the only place during the Muslim rebellion nobody was killed, because the Begums prohibited the ulama from riling the masses up. It's the only place. And so it's not like we want to see justice. I prefer more rahmah in the world, but justice for a ruler, you want to see a just ruler. You want to see rahmah amongst the people, but you definitely want to see the government being just with the people. So nobody supports tyranny. Nobody supports evil. Anybody that could support what's happening right now in Gaza, and it's unbelievable. And I'm shocked at not all of them. Many Jewish people have come out against this because they see it for what it is. But unfortunately, a lot of these rabbis, it's just been shocking. that they haven't come out against this. I mean, it's more the secular Jews that can see it for what it is. So there's a religious element here that, and this is one of the things what Voltaire, it's in many ways rightly said, you know, for good people, for good men to do evil, it takes religion to get good people to do evil things. And that's misunderstood religion. Religion can be very, very distorting. When you think God's on your side, we don't believe that. We don't know when God's on our side. We hope God's on our side. But God is not always on our side. If we're not on the side of truth and righteousness and justice, God's not on our side. Even if we're Muslims, we say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, God's on your side when you're on God's side. And then he says, بغير هذا لا يبح صرفه وليس يعزل إن أزيل وصفه. So other than kufr, you cannot remove the ruler. This is aqidah. This was taught in Azhar for 400 years. That was the aqidah of the Muslims. But it goes back to these things that من أعطى الأمير فقد أطعني ومن عصى الأمير فقد عصاني. Whoever obeys the person in charge has obeyed me, and whoever disobeys him has disobeyed me. So he says, even if they go from being a just ruler to an unjust ruler, you still don't remove them. Even Sheikh Abdullah, when they had the ruler, the woman was elected prime minister, he said that you had to do that because to go against it would be greater harm. You know, and this is something the modern Muslims just, I don't know. There's enough historical evidence to see. But we pray for justice and we pray for just rulers, you know, in government. I mean, we don't pray for I don't want justice for myself. None of us. Do you really want God to be just with you? I don't think so. Yeah, I want mercy. You know, the Prophet subhanallah. You know what when he would say to the women when he took bay'ah, he said, "Ma tu'taqna," you know, do what you're able to do. And the women would say to the Prophet ﷺ, Allahu wa rasuluhu arhamu bina min anfusina. Allah and His Messenger are more merciful to us than we are to our own selves. Yeah, subhanallah. This religion is about rahmah. You know, we need more rahmah. And sins bring on. فَلْيَحْذَرَ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَن تُصِيبُهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبُهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. You know, be forewarned that if you go against the Prophet's his amr, then you're going to have calamities and painful chastisement. Muslims, we're not immune to the sunan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, the Jews, when they said, نَحْنُ وَحِبَّ اللَّهِ, you know, أَبْنَاءَ اللَّهِ وَأَحِبَّاء, you know, we're the children of God and the beloved of God. Allah said, no, you're bashar, you're just human beings. Like, if that's true, why does He punish you? So the Muslims, we have to ask ourselves the same question. Because chosen people syndrome is a dangerous syndrome. Just to think that you have some special ontological status just because you say something. In the Battle of Yamama, Abbad ibn Bishr, he's the famous one who got shot and didn't feel it. You know, he kept praying, got shot with an arrow. He was with Ammar ibn Yasir. But he said, Ya Ahl al-Quran, because they were being routed. Khalid ibn Walid was ahead, and Musaylim al-Kadhab, he had thousands. I mean, I think like over 10,000 died. It was a horrific battles. But he had that, and they were losing. The Muslims were losing. And Khalid was very concerned. Abbad ibn Bishr, Ya Ahl al-Quran, Ya Ahl al-Quran, Zayyinu al-Quran bil-fi'al. Adorn this book with your actions. Don't just let it be words. You know, live by it. Kana khuluq al-Quran. He lived by the Quran. He was the Quran walking. Allah. So then, فَمَنْ وَفَّ مِنْكُمْ فَأَجْرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ. Whoever fulfills it, his reward is with God. So there's the reciprocation, you see. The mubaya'ah. So, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. So this is the transaction. Allah bought our souls, our lives and our wealth, and against it is paradise. So whoever fulfills this, فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ أَصَابَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ شَيْئًا. The hudud, like if you go, because تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. These are the hudud of Allah, don't transgress the hudud. So if you transgress the had punishment is restorative. It brings you back into, so that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, فَعُوقِبَ فِي الدُّنْيَا فَهُوَ كَفَارَةُ اللَّهِ. That removes it. So if you're punished in the dunya, some say shart al-tawbah, and others say even you don't have shart al-tawbah. Just the fact you got the had, it finishes it. But shart al-tawbah makes more sense to me. So فَهُوَ كَفَارَةٌ لَهُ. It removes his sin. So if you're punished in this, and that's why Sahaba, the jald that occurred and rajam at the time, it was from confessions. People went and confessed to the Prophet ﷺ because they wanted to be purified in the dunya. They didn't want to take their chances in the akhirah. That's how strong their iman was. And so, وَمَنْ أَصَابَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ شَيْئًا ثُمَّ سَتَرَهُ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنْ شَاءَ عَفَى عَنْهُ وَإِنْ شَاءَ عَقَبَهُ. So if you do one of these kaba'ir, the sagha'ir are lamam, they're removed by wudu, by salah al-khams, by, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you saw, لو كان لأحدكم نهر يغتسل فيه 5 مرات في النهار هل يبقى من دارينه من شيء؟ قال لا يبقى من دارينه شيء. The Prophet said, if one of you had a river that he went out and bathed in it 5 times a day, would he have any soil on him? Would you see any filth on him? They said, no, you wouldn't see any filth. He said, that's the 5 prayers. But that's sagha'ir, And so this is about kaba'ir. Like if any of these, because these are all related to kaba'ir. These things in the bay'ah, these are all related to kaba'ir. So if you do any of them and you're not punished in this world, Allah veils you, فَهُوَ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنْ شَاءَ عَفَى.